This looks like I had a shaving accident. I'm going for a real half and half look.
Oh man, that's I don't know. I've enjoyed my salt and pepper stuff, but I
Yeah,
uh
it looks better in person for me.
I had a shaving accident where I was trying not to have like a giant beard and shaved, and I shaved too much off of my chin on one side, and so
Oh
I'm
yeah.
I'm trying not to point it out to people, but I'm a little lopsided.
It's all right. The camera fixes it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Looks like we are successfully live. Are you ready to kick this thing off?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Starting in three, two, one. Welcome back to another episode of Picking Up the Pixels RPG Love. I'm your host, Boston, and joining me as always is Musum.
Hey.
Mina's out this month, still with some computer difficulties. Boy, it seems like it's happening to pretty much all of us. So I don't know if there's some sort of computer illness going around where it's like, I really need this computer. Oops, it's broken for like 2 months. So best of luck to her and her computer. Hopefully they're back up in fighting shape here pretty soon. I also have like a super important appointment to go to. So this might be an episode that suddenly ends because I have a very hard stop time. We're going to try and sort of rocket right through this. Let's start off with you, Misum. What have you been playing this past month?
So I'm still pushing to beat Persona 5 Royale. I am now in the casino. I've basically completed the casino up to where it will let me until it hits like November 18th or something like that.
Oh, right.
So I've just been kind of juggling everything else in that game, which continues to be pretty good. I forgot how much I enjoyed the Akamura, the food CEO guy. Like his dungeon, I thought was pretty good.
Which one was his?
He is the father of I just blanked out on her name.
Haru?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, he's the space one.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, he has that kind of goofy Darth Vader looking.
Yeah.
It's like Darth Vader, but a fishbowl on his head.
It's really good.
But that, I don't know. It wasn't like a mind-blowing good dungeon, but after, dealing with Futaba's tomb, like it's leagues better and very sensical, and you get through it, and it's kind of an interesting story too, but it's also like slight spoiler, when what happens at the end, I think Haru like I have like extra empathy for her since I had like a loss in the family in the last year, and it's
sure.
Maybe you guys are underplaying what just happened to Haru and what she thinks that you might have done to her.
Yeah, like she's having a real hard time, and everyone's like, "All right, let's go back in the dungeon." She's like, "Hey guys, wait a minute."
Yeah, it's I don't know. It is what it is. And then like so in Royale, evidently to get the best ending, you have to max out the counselor guy. You have to get the new girl's rank to 5. And you have to, I think, max out Akechi's, but I think his last 2 beats happen in the story.
Right.
And I got him to, I think, as far as he'll go until I hit that story beat. And he is like, I don't want to spoil it for people, but what he is super, super, super obvious. Like the last 2 or 3 social interactions, like he basically blatantly says it several times, and you're like, and like, your options to respond to him are all like friendly, like friend options, and I'm just like, man, this
you as a player has like squinty eyes, or it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, this is I don't know. That twist will kick off soon enough anyway in game.
Yeah.
And I think I'll gosh, I love how easy it is to trek for it. And I can't remember if the original Persona 5 had this, but now you can summon personas greater than your level just by paying extra currency.
Oh wow, that's huge. I don't think the original had that.
Yeah, it is super nice. Like the amount of times where I'm like, just let me get this one that's 1 level higher than me. Now it's like limitless. You can do whatever you want so long as you have the money to do it.
Wow. That's gonna make New Game Plus pretty great. Where it's like, all right, I fused a real good Satan at the end of my last run, and I'm level 50. That guy's 98. So let's just spend like a cool mil to pull him out.
I'm kind of hoping I can 100% the book. I'm not going to remember the names of anything this cast. I guess
Compendium?
It's no different than normal. Yes.
Yeah.
The Compendium.
I did that on I got the platinum for the vanilla Persona 5 game, and that was way easier than I was expecting it to be. It was a lot of like, pull up this guide. If you don't have it, it says fuse these 2 or 3 or 4 things together, and you have most of them already anyway. So it's like, oh, okay, cool. I just need the money.
Well, plus you can use because you can grab those ones, the money-driven generic ones that you find in each dungeon, and those will either step a persona up or down. Like if you have the level 50, I don't know, the strength persona for level 50, and you need like the level 60, then pull out one of those money guys, and it'll change it to the.
Oh, right, yeah.
I always get it mixed up which one moves up and which moves down, and it honestly sometimes it seems kind of inconsistent. But I know there's something in there because like most of the games, like the original Nocturne had something like that where they used the Magatama,
right.
Those guys you could use to step up or down, and that's how I did it in that game. So here it's just a matter of max out the rest of the social links, which I think I got like more than half of them done, and most of the rest are on like the later levels. So
oh wow,
I'm kind of saving Sojiro, is that his name?
Yes,
yeah. I'm kind of saving him till the end just because I know character's going to be living with him the whole time. So
yeah, well, and like later on you can play all the video games, you can read all the books, like you got all once you have all the stats up.
Yeah. And I'm glad as creepy as it is, I'm glad I maxed out the teacher first. Just because she, like her final thing in this version, and I think she did something similar in the other one, is she'll come over and give you a massage, which lets you, so if like you went to Mementos or Palace during the day, and you call her and get a massage, then you can then do a social thing at night.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So it's pretty nice, even if it's creepy.
Yeah. Still real weird, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to beat that, and I'm going to start Strikers. I thought about just starting it anyway, but I was like, well, I'm just going to have to disappoint the cast.
Oh, you might as well, especially since you're so close to the new stuff, like you might as well just kind of keep motoring on.
Yeah, like there's not that much left in the game. So
no, yeah.
And I can't imagine like if these are really the only new, like if the 3 characters that I've already like leveled up a whole bunch are the main new elements in terms of social links, I can't imagine like there's a whole ton to do in whatever the next semester is, other than crawl through this dungeon and enjoy whatever story hijinks they put in my way.
Yeah.
So I also have been playing more Epic 7. So this is a funny note. So I've been stuck on this battle in the story mode with Mort since like last fall or something, right?
Yeah,
like
it's been a while, yeah.
The same battle. And what I discovered recently is I could have beaten him this entire time.
Okay.
Like mechanically how he works is he buffs himself every turn, and it was just tearing the crap out of my team. And the easiest way to counter that is I have Saul in that game. Saul, bad guy from, Guilty Gear.
Right.
And Saul's number 2 ability is like it's a passive counterattack deal where anytime an enemy character does something that does not attack your team, he will counterattack it.
Okay.
And what I didn't realize is it debuffs the enemy too.
Ooh, okay.
Which is like he used to be one of my mains, and I kind of just sidelined him since I got some of the more rare guys, over time, and I just needed to put him back in and almost immediately beat him. Like it was, it's. I feel bad for people who don't have Saul and are fighting him.
Yeah.
So I haven't really played too much more in that story just because you need time to sit down and read the dialogue and all that stuff. There's a lot of stuff in there. But I think I'm at a healthy place with that game where I'm not always getting all the daily stuff, but I'm still kind of trucking along and enjoying it, and I have a decent amount of saved currency and all that.
Yeah, like dipping in and out when the mood strikes you, but you're not like, oh, the subreddit says this banner's real good. It's like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah. Like I have enough to get a character on a banner, and right now I think they have 1 or 2 characters on the banner that I don't have, but I'm kind of thinking like I'm gonna save up enough for 2. And that way when one comes along that I kind of want, I won't feel bad if I just drop all my currency on them.
Oh, sure.
Into that.
Yep.
It's I'm not all the way through it. I have no idea how long it is. One of the things it has going against you is it starts up and it says, we're going to start you in the middle of the game and you're going to get a bunch of story stuff, but don't worry about it and just play through and have fun. And then I literally went through like an hour of reading the story this thing was dropping, and it introduces like literally 10 to 20 characters to you immediately.
Oh, jeez.
And you're like, oh, so this guy's a prince to that king, and of course here are the guys who randomly betrayed the king and killed the king, and then you have to flee with the prince, and how very, like, yes, this is definitely in that tactics,
right?
Like, right. Tactics ogre and Final Fantasy Tactics. Like,
here's all these political machinations. It's like, yes, yes, I'm back in it.
I'm familiar with these. It doesn't really, like, it's odd because it's mostly just watching cutscenes. So, like, you go through the initial cutscene, and then you'll do a battle. The battle is very, it's a lot like those other 2 games I just mentioned, Final Fantasy Tactics and Ogre. Like, it's the same, extra damage from behind. One really cool thing, though, they added that I like is whenever, like, if an enemy character is adjacent to 2 of your characters, and one of them successfully attacks that enemy character, there's a chance for your other character to also attack the enemy character.
Oh, cool. That's right.
But also,
great.
Also vice versa. So it
okay.
It adds a cool element to it. Like I definitely, like, I lost like half the party in my first battle because I was just messing around, and it was hard for me to get used to that idea. And like they very obviously were like, this one character is definitely going to story die this battle, so we're leaving him down here. But
right,
I kept being like, well, maybe I should help him take those guys out, and I kind of waffled on that and lost the guy left down there with him. But there didn't seem to be permadeath, but I haven't made it to the battle to really confirm that, and also I don't remember any of their names.
Oh yeah.
After you beat that battle, I think I had was it 1 or 2 battles they had me fight? May have just been 1 battle. I think, yeah, that's right, because you're trying to escape through this gate. So you have to open the gate, and really to beat it, all you have to do is get to the escape area. But I guess there's the game warns you that if you don't beat everyone, then there's a percentage chance off higher elevation onto enemies to do extra damage too.
Oh, cool.
I never could line that up to get it to work. I set one guy up a ladder, and then he spent the rest of the battle trying to kill the other guy up there. So class-wise, I couldn't really tell anything going on. After I got out, of course, I immediately went looking for like a class change screen, and I couldn't find anything. And they seem to have most of the camp functions locked out.
Okay.
You can talk to people in camp, and you can buy like some healing items and things like that, but not much beyond that. And then they present you with a map, and there's like a bunch of points of interest that you can go to and kind of watch cutscenes. And I was about to do the next battle on the docket, but again, like it's a lot of story in there for them starting you in the middle of the game, evidently. Like,
yeah, that's kind of surprising.
I say middle of the game. They say they're starting you on chapter 6, and it's also making me wonder, like, maybe the chapters just go by really quick, because this seems pretty significant. Like, this is what you'd expect near the start of the game, like chapter 2 or 3. Like,
right, like chapter 1's your tutorial, and chapter 2 you really get into it.
Yeah. Oh, main character's dad is betrayed and killed, and now the real game starts. Not
Right, exactly. War of the
chapter
Lions. Oh
6.
no.
Um, the voice acting, I don't think I like.
I've
It's
heard some of it. It sounds very much. It sounds very placeholder.
yeah. I,
Because I
I,
mean, they were pretty honest when they showed it. They're like, this isn't coming out until 2022, so
yeah.
like you can play the demo, you can give your feedback. Like, we're definitely gonna take that into account for the final game. We got plenty of time to work on it, so I feel like that's very much like, let's just lay down some audio, let's get some voice acting, and then we'll keep
Yeah.
going.
It was like I feel like they gave one of the voice actors like English dialogue, and he just didn't put on an English accent, but
Right.
it was it was just really strange sounding. But like the written dialogue, just taken as is, I don't think is bad.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'm gonna finish the demo or just wait for the game to come out. Like I might play more just to sell myself a little bit
Sure.
more on it, because I'd like to see more of the combat system and see if they let loose any of the level up stuff. But it's a very attractive game.
Yeah, that engine is great.
Yeah. So, but that is all I've been playing.
I started Persona 5 Strikers. Uh,
Nice.
I I haven't really. Okay, let me back up. So first off, I feel like this is. If you're listening to the show, you probably already know, but just in case someone is out there, if you haven't played Persona 5 already, don't play Strikers. It's Persona 5 2. It does literally no introduction or no recap at the beginning of the game. Like the first thing Morgana says to you at the game is like, you know how to get back to the coffee shop, right? And just dumps you in town. And
Oh, wow.
it's just like, good luck, like get back there. And like it's kind of fun because you can explore the town. You can go to the laundromat, you can go to the like secondhand store, you can go to the grocery store. Like you can visit all these places. And Morgana's like, oh yeah, remember the secondhand store? We bought our TV from there. That, oh yeah, let's go to the coffee shop. So you go do that, and you meet up with the crew, and like literally everybody is there, and immediately it doesn't reintroduce anybody. It's just like, are we gonna take a summer vacation? Boom, let's get started. And like it just goes, which I think is great. But if you haven't played Persona 5, there's not even an option for like like MGS 2 started with, where it's like I played MGS 1 or I'm brand new. Like you play the first one first. It's really good. If you have a PS5, it's free on the vanilla version is free on PlayStation Plus. Um, I don't think I've ever played a Musou game before. Um,
Hmm.
so I'm kind of having fun with this. At the very least for that, they've sort of taken Persona 5's dungeons and kind of modified them a little bit to work with the Musou gameplay. So a lot of it is you're still trying to sneak around to ambush the enemies, like rip the mask off, and then you got a surprise attack on the enemy. Except this time, instead of you going into the standard battle system from Persona 5, basically like 30 shadows dump out of this one shadow. You just rip the mask off, and then you're fighting like 30 to 50 shadows. And most of them, if they're like just a shadow or they're like pixie or they're pyro jack or whatever, they're only taking a handful of hits anyway. So you're kind of like what I've seen from Musou games before, you're kind of cutting down wide swaths of enemies. They do the interesting thing though. I'm playing on PS5. They do the interesting thing that you still equip and fuse and raise persona, and using them in battle, you hold down, I think it's R1, and it slows down time or it stops it, I don't know. And you have their skill list there. It's like skill and spell list like normal. And if you go to cast a spell, if it's something like healing or buffing, you can pick the individual party member. But if it's something where you're going to like just cast Garu or Bufu or something, you just get a big reticle on the ground, and it's like, well, pick the area you want to cast that, and it'll cast it right there. So you're still taking advantage of enemy weaknesses, and it still gives you the benefit of, well, you hit Pyrojack with Bufu, so he gets knocked down, and you can do one more attack, which by hitting, I think it's circle, and then you get to pick either your standard attack, which is square, which is just like cutting them with whatever you have, or triangle, which is just you shoot them with a gun, which is the thing I had forgotten about Persona 5. So it's kind of interesting that they're melding the Musou gameplay together with still going through a Persona dungeon and still fighting like enemy personas with your personas, while you're like dodging and dashing and rolling around and, you know, hitting square, 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 triangle combos and stuff like that. It's I think the only thing I feel like I'm almost done with the first dungeon. It's still a Persona game, so like there is an incredible amount of story before you get to go into a dungeon and do dungeon things. And all of it is voice acted. It sounds like all the same voice actors, which is pretty great. All the writing still feels the same as it did with Persona 5. Only thing that's different is Futaba can do stuff in the dungeon now. And in the first dungeon, she's hacking these doors that are impenetrable, and you're fighting off waves of enemies that are trying to attack her. And she has a health bar. So that feels interesting so far in the first dungeon. I hope they don't... I've had to do that 2 or 3 times so far just in the first dungeon. I hope they kind of use that sparingly in future dungeons, because I'm playing on normal and it's not the most fun thing. But, you know, I'm at the beginning part of Persona 5 Strikers, which means I'm like 3 hours in, which is just like, oh yeah, you're like 2% of the way in. It is really funny though. There's so many story conceits they have for the regular characters around town and the people you interact with not being there. Like the airsoft gun guy and the doctor lady are traveling for the summer. Because it's like everybody's on summer break. Igor isn't there because he's off doing something else. Like the lady that's I don't remember the end of Persona 5, so I'm trying not to spoil anything by accident. The lady that's there is very much like, oh, Igor, yeah, you know him, he's busy doing other stuff. He didn't really tell me. Anyways, and I was like, oh, okay. I guess you can't really have him back again, you know, just on your beck and call, but it's sort of interesting.
I've been curious how they're going to handle the Igor situation in Persona 6, so...
yeah, I wonder if they're going to do, like... It's always a different Igor, it's just the same name and face, you know, the Velvet Room's a weird place.
Yeah. They could bring in Dr. Frankenstein from the...
Yeah, the Raidu, Kuzenao, those ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, God, those games were so good. Please just remaster those, Atlas. People will love them now. They love Persona. Now's the time. Strikers so far seems really good. It's interesting to see how they have kind of... it's done by Omega Force, who's like the Musou team now. They've done Age of Calamity. They did the Transformers one. They did the Fist of the North Star one. Like, if you want someone to make a Musou game with your property, it's them. And they've done a really good job at making a Persona Musou game where it feels true to both sides of that coin, which I think is I wasn't even expecting there to be like Persona fusing. And first time you go in the Velvet Room, they're like, welcome back, prisoner. You want to fuse some Persona? Here's the compendium. It's like, oh, wow, okay. I'm in trouble.
I wasn't expecting the fusing either. I mean, it's supposed
Yeah.
to be like a 40 or 50-hour game, right? Unlike the...
Yeah, it's supposed to be pretty lengthy. And I mean, when you go into fusing, they go through the standard tutorial of fusing, where it's like, oh, look, these two persona you picked up in the dungeon. Oh, so weird. They can fuse together into a third one. So I'm like going through, and it's the usual. So I'm like half paying attention to it. And then the attendant in the Velvet Room was like, oh, by the way, you can pick which one of the skills you want to inherit from either one of these personas. And I was like, oh, I can just choose that now? Oh, okay.
Nice.
Great. That's incredible. So it's just like, yeah, here's a list of like 7 of them. Which one do you want to bring over? So that was a pretty interesting quality of life thing. But yeah, so far so good. I haven't been putting a ton of time into it, just because I'm playing like 15 other things all at once. But so far so good. I'm excited to keep diving into it. Next game I'm playing, also brand new, Bravely Default 2. I One of the things I love so much about Bravely Default 2 so far is that it wastes absolutely 0 of your time. It's the polar opposite to Persona 5's intro. Like, you're a sailor and you get caught in like a horrible storm and you drown. And some disembodied voice brings you back and dumps you on shore, and someone finds you. And that's within like 2 minutes. The game is just like, yeah, you died. No big deal. You're brought back in this weird land. Well, let's go figure it out. And like, you wake up in the inn, and it's one of the best things. You don't have amnesia, which is great for a JRPG. But like, the innkeeper lady shows you a map of the area, and the internal dialogue of your character is like, oh, I don't recognize any of this. What the hell? It's just like, okay, cool. And right away, the game is like, cool, go back to where you washed up on shore. Just go check it out. You run into 2 people, and they're like, hey, nice to meet you. We helped you out in that battle. We're going to join your party. And then, like, literally the next text box is, these 2 people joined your party. It's just like, okay, cool. Like, it's really refreshing, where it's just like, yeah, we'll adventure together. Why the hell not? Whatever. So that has been really nice, and it feels very much like the other 2 Bravely Default games, in the way that it feels like Square never stopped making Final Fantasy V and just kept putting more stuff on top of that. Because it's the exact same job system. It's the exact, like, you have a primary job and a secondary job, and you can mush all the skills together from either one of those jobs. And even, like, the freelancer job gets stronger the more jobs you master. So it's like down to that level of Final Fantasy V, but then it still has the traditional, I guess now traditional Bravely Default battle system, where you have your BP, and you're defaulting to build up BP, and you're braving to spend that BP. And if anyone hasn't played it before, you can go into a BP deficit up to like -4, and then at that point you'll have to spend 4 rounds not doing anything, including not defending, to recharge those points. So it still has that. It still has that really fun system. No random battles this time. You see them all on the map, including in dungeons. And once you get a lot stronger than your enemies, the enemies just run away from you. Which is great. I think the unfortunate side effect is you can still speed up battles in this. I think you can go up to 4 times speed now, as opposed to just 3 times. But it doesn't look like there's an option to change your encounter rate, which is a part that I loved about the first two. Because if you're like, look, I'm on death's doorstep, I just punched my mic. I'm gonna turn off encounters to just like get back to town to the inn, or I'm in a good space and I just want to farm stuff. I'm gonna turn the encounter rate up to like times 10, and just every step I take, I'm gonna fight an enemy. So a little bummed about that, but I think the trade-off of being able to see enemies on the map is probably a better victory there. I beat like the tutorial dungeon. I got my first 2 asterisks, which is what they call jobs in the Bravely games. I got Vanguard, which is Knight, and White Mage, which is a White Mage. So now I have like White Mage, Black Mage, Vanguard, and Freelancer. So those are my kind of 4 starting jobs there. And so far, it's great. They're now on Unreal Engine. It's now a 3D game as opposed to a 2D game like it was on 3DS. So it looks even better. The soundtrack, of course, is incredible, as it has been through the other 2 games. And it just feels... Part of what I like about this franchise so much is that it feels like you're playing a classic JRPG, but it doesn't have any of the BS surrounding that. You know, like it has all these quality of life changes, and it has all this like internet connected stuff that's sort of fun. Like you can send this ship out in town to go meet up with other players and collect free treasure and money for you while the game is running and your Switch is asleep. So you like come back and it's like, oh, here you go. You have like 30,000 gold and a bunch of experience orbs to boost experience and a bunch of JP orbs just for like letting your Switch sleep. So it's this interesting melding of the 2 worlds that I still really like. It seems really good, and reviews so far have been really, really solid, sort of across the board. My last game, however, though, is the new Devolver Digital published game Loop Hero, which is a lot of genres altogether, so hang out with me here. If you don't like any of these individual genres, it's okay. It's probably still for you. So it's a RPG, roguelike, idle deck builder. But it's not really any of those. Let me explain. Because I know when people hear like deck builder RPG, they're like, yeah, I'm out. And I get it. This isn't one of those. So when you play the game, you get put on a black screen, and the game draws a circuit, one connected pathway that your character automatically walks through. He is a hero that goes in a loop. And anytime he or she runs into an enemy, fights that enemy automatically. Or that group of enemies automatically. So what you manage is the RPG elements are you have health, you have experience. Every time you level up, you get a skill. And you're managing their equipment. And I have 3 character classes right now. One is the warrior. That's a real standard sword and board sort of affair. The rogue, which is a pretty standard rogue affair without stealing stuff. You equip 2 items, you're fast, but you don't have a lot of health, etc. And the 3rd class I unlocked is the Necromancer, which seemed like a real big jump. But that one's especially cool because the Necromancer can't fight for himself. He summons skeletons, but your equipment upgrades the quality of skeletons that you summon, as opposed to equipping you or like upgrading you as a character. So Necromancer has been really interesting. Um, but where the deck building comes from, and I like hesitate to use that because I think people are like, I don't like Slay the Spire. I get it. Um, the cards in your deck build the world around the loop. So all of that black area behind you is a grid that you're laying down towns and dungeons and monster traps and mountains and rivers and stuff like that. And all of that stuff either affects your character or affects the enemies that you're going to run into. So the game sort of relies on two amounts of time that pass. One is the day passing. That happens a couple of times every loop. And then every time you make one complete circuit of the loop, you and enemies the enemies get harder and they drop better loot. Sorry. So every time you go around the loop, things get harder, but you get better stuff for it. And at the same time, you're laying down like spider cocoons that spawn some amount of new spiders every day. You're laying down ruins or like vampire manors that spit out some number of vampires every day. And it's this really cool risk reward because if you want to make the game harder, you totally can. Just like coat the entire loop full of monster stuff. And you'll get really great loot, but maybe you won't finish a loop because you only regen health when you finish a loop or depending on how you build stuff at the end of the day. So I'm probably doing a really bad job of explaining Loop Hero, but it's probably because I've been doing nothing but play this game for like the last 2 days straight. Especially because it can run on my kind of not that great laptop. And I was still taking care of my kid. Nobody write us. But like the first time I finished playing it, Steam was like, "Hey, you played that for 6 hours. Do you recommend it?" And I was like, "Oh boy, okay." So it's really very good. I got sold on it by watching. I like a Binding of Isaac YouTuber named Northern Lion. He did a kind of a pre-release playthrough of it. I think as soon as you see someone sitting down and playing it, I think you will immediately understand it. And if it seems like something you'd like, it is only $15. It's only on PC at the moment. But so far it's been one of those things where I started it and started playing it just to check it out, and then literal hours passed by, and I was like, "Oh, okay, all right. I guess I'm way into this." So Loop Hero is really cool, and it has this really great aesthetic of like a 16-bit sort of pixel art thing with sound effects that sound like they're from the early 90s. The soundtrack is really, really good. Check out Loop Hero. It's one of those games that I was keeping an eye on because it seemed like it could be cool, and then I'm way into it pretty immediately. Um, but
So, quick side note, because I got
sure,
interested in this as you talked about it,
yeah,
and their website, if you keep scrolling down it, presents like
yeah,
a dungeon and then a fight. Like it's
yeah. If you keep scrolling the page down, it will like go through an entire loop of the game, so you can see how the game plays. I had no idea how they did that. It's
it's
incredible.
uh it's really cool. Like it'll go back
Yeah,
to the menu and then it shows like a different loop, I guess. So
yeah.
um anyway, I am interested in this. I may wait to see if they ever bring it to a Switch or something like that.
Yeah,
But
I feel like it could do pretty well on consoles. It's one of those things that might be a little hard to adapt to consoles because so much of it is like clicking and dragging cards to build a mountain or a
mm,
field or put down dungeon or put down other sort of tiles. One of the other interesting things too is you're getting a pretty incredible amount of gear pretty regularly, and you have 12 slots under your equipment where it's essentially like your loot bag. I love what this game does in that every time you fill up the 12 slots, and then something else comes in, it just kicks out and breaks down the gear that was in the 12th slot. So like you never have to do much of anything manually in this game. It's just like, all right, you had some gear that got kicked out of your bag. It automatically gets broken down into some like piece of metal. You get 20 pieces of metal, it makes a bigger one. You get enough of those, it makes another one. Like so much of this game is kind of automated in a great way like that, where it's like, I don't want to like take time to break down all this gear. I just want the game to, if I don't care about it enough to leave it in my bag, just take care of it. Yeah, Loop Hero is super cool. I'm not sure if the demo is still out there or not, but if it is, I'd really recommend checking that out. But that's all I've been playing. Let's do our releases here real quick, and then we'll head on out because we have a ton of news stories this month, which is just unusual and especially unfortunate because I'm running out of time here. Yakuza Like a Dragon is out now on PS5. Still not entirely sure why that got delayed so much, but it's out now. Unfortunately, the PS4 saves don't carry over to PS5. We've known that for a couple of months. That still sucks. That's a bummer.
Yeah.
Kingdoms of Amalur: Re-Reckoning comes out on the Switch on the 16th. I haven't seen any footage of this yet. I mean, it's still early enough. I feel like this is one of those games that's so crazy long that if it runs well on Switch, this might be a really good platform to play it on, because you can just kind of be out exploring in the dungeons and the fields and whatnot, and also kind of watching TV at the same time.
Yeah.
Marvel's Avengers comes out on PS5 and Series X on the 18th. I believe this is a free upgrade to the PS4 and Xbox One versions, if you have those. So keep an eye out for cheap copies of those, because that's the price has been falling on that pretty quickly. Story of Seasons: Pioneers of Olive Town comes out on the Switch on the 23rd. The new Harvest Moon came out recently, and there have been a large number of people that are finding out the exact situation that Mina has been reminding us for a while, which is like Harvest Moon isn't made by the people that you want to make those anymore. That those aren't the games you want to play. Like you can't even do same-sex marriages anymore. It's like a real bummer. Story of Seasons is made by the old Harvest Moon people. So if you want to play the good one, it looks like Story of Seasons is going to be what you want to play.
Gotcha.
Or Stardew Valley. That game's great. Stardew Valley is so good. Yakuza 6, The Song of Life comes out PC and Xbox One on the 25th. I'm sort of expecting that to be a Game Pass game as well, just like the rest of them, although I don't think they have confirmed that quite yet. Monster Hunter Rise comes out on the Switch on the 26th. Very curious to see how that's going to work, because that still seems like a real cool thing. But I didn't play the previous one, so I'm not entirely sure sort of what to expect. All of the Kingdom Hearts games are coming out on PC, which I believe this is an Epic Games Store exclusive, at least for a little bit. That's coming out on the 30th. It's everything from the first one and all the side story stuff all the way to 3 and the rhythm game. So it's like 7 or 8 games that are all coming out. It's like the 1.5 HD that has all the games in there, 2 point whatever HD has all the games in there. It's all that stuff. So If you've never played Kingdom Hearts and you wanted to, you should. They're all really good. Now you can play them all on PC, and I'm sure the mod support nearly day one will be pretty ridiculous. So very excited to experience that on Twitter here later this month. And last but not least, Outriders comes out PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series X, and Stadia on April 1st. Demo's out now if you wanted to try that. This is if you haven't heard of this, People Can Fly, who made Bulletstorm. They're making I hate that people call them looter shooters, but I will call it a looter shooter. They're making one of them, but it's not a live service game, and it's not like a mandatory play with friends sort of thing. You can play a single player thing, and it's contrary to how it looks, it's not a cover-based shooter. The cover is there for your enemies. One of the taglines for the game is "Cover is for cowards." So don't hide behind cover. That's not this game. But demo's out now, and you can carry your progress over from the demo to the full game. And they're saying the demo's not going anywhere, even after the game launches. So if you want to check that out later, demo apparently is significantly long, which is pretty nice. I have not had a chance to play it myself, although I've been following that game for quite a while, and I'm pretty excited. That's all of our releases, though. Whew. Big month for RPGs, sort of out of nowhere. But I guess they gotta come out sometime, and I guess the last financial quarter of the year is probably the best time to put them out. And that's also our episode. I'd love to talk about all these new stories. We'll carry them over to next month, and we'll hopefully Mina will be back to talk about all these stories then. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. You can visit us at pickingupthepixels.com. Everywhere to find and follow us is on the right-hand side of the page. Patreon.com/E1M1, the ones are numbers. $5 a month. You get early access to all the E1M1 shows, exclusive outtakes and stuff. We usually don't have a lot of outtake stuff here for PUP, maybe for this episode, but we usually don't have a ton. But you can check all that stuff out. Patreon.com/E1M1. Musum, where can we find you online?
You can find the nexus of all my audio endeavors at jbaudio.net, and also John Musum on Twitter.
You can also find Mina at Mina KO Rocket pretty much everywhere, like YouTube and Twitter. And you can find all my shows at e1m1.com. And I think that's it. So we'll see you all next month. Bye.
Bye.
And thanks everyone for hanging out here live with us and watching the video. See you next